What's happening, everybody? It's your boy Jimmy James 59, and today I'm going to be covering how to Galley Rush. I think that this is going to be a very useful video, and you're gonna want to know how to Galley Rush, and there's a few reasons why. The first reason is that islands tends to show up in the map pool quite a bit. It's not the most uncommon one. You probably ban it because you aren't very familiar with the Galley Rush build order, and so think about it this way, right? If you know the Galley Rush build order and somebody else doesn't, right, then you're going to be able to not only go into that map with a plan, but you're going to have a strategic advantage, right? The second reason here really is that the new DLC is going to give us two civilizations that focus on naval warfare. I have a feeling that we're going to see islands not only in the map pool, but we're probably going to see, or at least we could see, on the ladder, maybe even more maps that we get each rotation that have more island kind of settings, right? Maybe maps like coastal or continental, something where there's going to be a lot of fighting involved. And the third reason too is that understanding water builds is not only helpful for islands, but also nomad, which is, pretty much, it's almost always, maybe not almost always, but it is often also in the 1v1 and the team game map pool. And so going for water, right, this build I'm going to do here is pretty applicable to a map like Nomad, though you may have to modify the TC start, but the principles are the same if on Nomad you're actually going to be fighting for water. So if you're playing other kind of strategies on Nomad, right, do those. So, right, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put the build on the screen here, right, and that way you can see the build that I'm going to go for. And we're playing as Byzantines, so we don't have an early game eco bonus, and so this will actually be a great video just to showcase what the build can do. All right, so let's go ahead, right, going to start the game. And the first 11 villagers that you have in this game actually, or in this particular map, are going to play out pretty standard. You're going to be getting 6 on sheep, you're going to get that 4 on wood, you're going to go ahead and lower the board with the next one, and with your scout, you're trying to find your resources. Now, scouting right after that, once you find your resources, right, and on islands you have a standard number, right? Once you find those with your scout, then you're actually not able to scout the enemy because we're on different islands. So what you're going to want to do with your scout once you find everything, and I think we have found everything. I personally recommend luring in at least 1 to 2 deer, right? Because again, you kind of got to think about it like Arena in this way, where there's probably not much of a chance that somebody's going to come along and try to mess with you at this stage of the game. Theoretically, it's possible somebody could build a transport ship in Dark Age, but having the food, or excuse me, the wood to do that seems more like a setback. Usually we worry about landings a bit later on, so go ahead, take the time that you have once you find everything, go ahead, lure a couple deer, and that way you can have a lot more food when you hit the next stage. So, and also maybe you could get up faster, maybe save a villager, or you can decide, right, this build, the galley build's actually pretty flexible in some ways for you to be able to go up on maybe 1 lesser, depending on your civ, maybe 2 less villagers, if it's something you decide to do, or you can bank the extra resources and make sure that you're going to be able to keep your TC running, research some upgrades, etc. So with this, we'll just see if we play it standard here. Now, what we're doing, right, we're just getting everything in. We've lured in 2 deer, right? That's probably enough because, again, it's possible that we could get landed, right? Transport ships can be made in the Dark Age, so you just never know. And also, you do want to just explore the map anyways with the scout, just to see what's around and start getting a sense of what things look like, because, islands can be oddly shaped. Now, this villager, we have them making the house, right? And instead of going to berries, right, what we're going to do is this vill is going to make a dock, right? We're going to make a dock, and what I like to do is make a dock, make another house, and then have them go to the fish, and that way I don't need to worry about building houses. Now, right, the next villager, right, from here, is going to go to wood. So that way you're going to get 5 on wood. And at this point, the build becomes really simple because what you're doing is you're just adding everything to boars and the TC. And that's it, right? And so you're just going to keep doing that. The idea, right, is to, in this build, have 20 villagers, a scout, and then 4 fire ships. That's the plan. And that way you get, you know, you'll have, during the transition, you'll be at 25 out of 25 population. So once this, right, once this house goes up, we don't need to worry about making another house in Dark Age. You will want to make sure you remember to make a house during the transition. That is a mistake that I make a lot, where I just kind of forget to make that house, because I have probably played Islands like maybe half a dozen times in the last half a dozen months. So this is not a build I do very often. So if there are any imperfections, you can chalk it up to that fact. Now, we're starting to get a little bit advanced in the age. And again, one of the things you do want to do, keep your scout active, right? You want to keep, right? You want to keep scouting the map. You want to know what your terrain more or less looks like. How close, right, you are to, say, the edge of the map is nice to know, because it's nice to start thinking about where some of these choke points are in the game, right? So you definitely want to be aware of that and know what the terrain looks like. Now, as you can see, right, we are on our 20 villagers, so that's good for us. And we're just going to go ahead. You can go for a faster uptime where you don't get loom. I usually get loom because I think landings are really common on islands. Now, let me say this, right? I'll just stop here. And the transition is very, very different. So, right, you can see, right, that we took part of a llama, so we made sure we had the food to get up. And now we've just abandoned it for a bit, because what we're going to want to do, right? Well, let me talk about strategy a second first. So on islands, you're typically opening up with, again, some kind of galley. Now, are you going to go for fire galleys, right? Or are you going to go for the, you know, regular galley that shoots arrows? Fire galleys are a unit that counters the regular galley. And so people often open with that. They're a little bit faster, a little bit easier to get out. And they are countered, right, by galleys once you get a big enough mass of them, right? That's the trick here, right? Once you get a big mass of them. And it could take some time to get your galley numbers up, especially in early feudal age, right? So fire galleys are a pretty strong opening, because what you can do, and again, thinking about your objectives, you can go ahead and try to destroy your opponent's fish, right? So that's going to be something you're going to want to do. And so the way that we tend to open that, right, is that you're going to have, right, you're going to want to put 5 villagers on gold, right? We have a 6 on these straggler trees, because we're just trying to build up wood. Because what we want to do here is we want to afford another dock so that we can open with 2 docks. And if we're playing heavy for water, getting a third one out quickly as well. So we're going to want to put 5 on gold, and then we're going to want to send 7 to make a lumber camp here. And we're going to take our 2 other vills, and we're going to have them make a lumber camp here. So we should have 14 on lumber, 5 on gold. And then this villager, at some point, I like to take this villager and make a house, because especially luring in the deer, right? We can take this villager off of food for a bit, and you're going to want to make sure that you make this house, make another dock to help you out, so that way you can go for warship production. So let's go ahead, right? Kick this thing back up. And with your scout, right? Be active scouting, right? Landings are pretty common, right? So, you know, if you're like me, right? I don't mind fighting for water. I kind of like it, right? Maybe it's the fact, you know, I'm a former naval officer, and so I kind of like the going for water sort of thing. And I don't like amphibious landings. I hate being landed, because I would rather just fight on water. But it happens a lot, so you want to keep the scout active. Keep the scout, right? Where'd our scout go? Okay, good, yeah. Keep that scout moving around, just seeing what's there. Any opponents being sneaky, right? You're going to want to keep your eye out for that, because The last thing you want to do is win water, and you think, oh, great, things are going so well. But, you find out that actually you're under assault. You don't have a barracks up. They might have archers, and now you got to get a barracks up. You got to get a range out. And you can see, right, we had a pretty good uptime here, just looking at that. So this build was pretty effective. We're getting our second dock up. We're getting into fire ship production. When you hit the next stage, you want to get to double bid axe, right? And this villager, right, for me, usually becomes more of a house villager. This villager should be responsible for making all of my other buildings to help us get to the next stage, getting a blacksmith, getting a market. It's actually really important to remember that in order to make the market, you need a mill. And so we'll talk about this. So what you want to do, right, in the feudal age, your first villager that you make goes out to get you 6 on gold so you can run 2 docks worth of fire ships. And from there, right, you just want to start sending vills to the town center. And now you want to take, right, that sheep you let rot under your town center for a bit. No worries, right? It's probably, most of it will still be there. And now you just want to keep sending vills there. You want to keep your food going. You've got your fishing ships. It really depends if you're playing for water or not, right? With Byzantines, right? Byzantines are a really nice water civ because they have faster firing fire ships, right? So I like going for, I think it's good to go open fire galleys. And at this point, right, I just want to win water, especially with the Portuguese. Portuguese have more HP on all of their ships, right? And so they can be really, really difficult. And so with a civ like Byzantines, honestly, I'm thinking win water, be able to make fishing ships, right? Now, notice right here in this dock, remember, I don't know what's going on. He could have a demolition ship in there, so I was pretty hesitant, actually, to hang around there. What I probably should do here, right, learn from some of my mistakes, just in case he's got a demo ship in here, split these fire galleys up so the splash damage of the demo ship, right, wouldn't do as much damage to all of them. And we do see these 2 galleys run away, so good for us, right? We know that that's where they are, and we're just going to chase them down with our regular galley, and we should be able to come to this unit here, right? Now, check this out. Look at our opponent, right? Our opponent right now, I think, has a sense that they are probably going to not be able to fight naval-wise. And our opponent is actually, right? Actually, let me pause here because I do want to talk strategy, and a strategy I didn't mention. So, which is actually, I was kind of surprised that our Portuguese players seem to play it this way because I spend a lot of time on the front of his base sort of looking for things, and I don't really find anything. Now, our opponent here, he's got 1 dock on the front, and, right, he's got a 2nd dock in the back. He's going to fish in the back here, right? So he's actually not playing for water. You can, right, he's got a pretty healthy food count. He has a lot of stone. I don't know why he has so much stone. Maybe he wants to, well, let's just see what he's going to do, right? But he's not playing for water, right? He did invest some into galleys, but he's going to lose that. And these fast-firing Byzantine fire ships, they're doing pretty good here. Now, this is one of the things that I do want to mention, right? And this is just good gameplay advice, I think. When you're playing these maps that you don't get very often, as you see, right? He's going in, he's trying to take out the fishing ships. He actually gets a good bit of damage in, actually, as he's clicking up to the next age. But fortunately, right, we lose 2 fire ships, but that's okay. It looks like we're gonna recover pretty well. And, right, these guys are just going to escape. We're going to see if we can hunt them down. See if maybe, right, let's go ahead and just see what our perspective is here. Right, again, we don't really know a lot about his base, right? Because, again, we were going to go do that, but then our fishing ship started to get hit. And so now, right, we're going to patrol and see if we can find anything. Now, to get back to the build, right, something you want to do, once you finish your sheep here, you want to make a mill, get the berries, so that way you can get your market up. And I have a pretty good bit of wood. I'm actually going to make a back dock so that way I can have this one that's really just there to eventually make fishing ships, right? That's kind of my idea here, because what I'm kind of thinking at this point, he's probably fishing in the back of his base, and he could have a lot of galleys massed up, which might be difficult to fight. So I'm just going to go ahead, right? I don't want to fall behind him in food economy. I can see his scores a little bit lower, and at this point I actually become a little bit worried about that. Now, let's pause here, right? I'll tell you one of the reasons why I love Byzantines is you get free town watch and free town patrol. You can see, right? Let's take a look at my vision here. Right? We have this outpost, and what do we see? Right? We caught him. Right? Our opponent is here going for a landing. They have a lot of stone. It looks like they're probably planning some kind of tower, maybe even eventually a forward castle, go organ gun kind of play, right? We see this, right? He's up, and we're going to see this pretty soon. Now, the question is, right? You're in this situation, right? You're going to spot, right, the fact that there's this tower coming down. What do you do, right? That's the question you want to ask yourself here, right? And we will catch this eventually, right? As this tower is going to come up again. We're looking around, and he has, what is it, 5 villagers, right? What we're going to do here is we're just going to bring all of these villagers in here, right? And we're going to batter down this tower, right? He doesn't have any other units here. He didn't make a forward archery range or anything like that. We probably would have just spotted it, that being the case. And, right, now we're taking this tower down, right? You can see, even though you got the castle age, it's going to have a little bit more HP, but, right, this tower's going to go down, and now we can deal with this tower as well. He doesn't quite get the walls up, right? And so our opponent's going to go ahead and call the GG, right? So this actually, part of the reason why I wanted to do this particular video is because I've wanted to do a Galley Rush video for a while now. I do all of my build orders. I do show you an actual ranked game played on the ladder. This is like a mid 1300 level game, which is, you know, more or less my elo. And the fact that we have a little bit of a short one, right? You can see the build order, and then the video is not going to go on for an excessive amount of time as you see me trying to get in the game, because island games can go on forever. Can go on for forever, especially against a civ like the Portuguese. So, because they might try to take advantage of the Fatoria, and there are some legendary pro games on islands that last multiple hours. Now, right, so you saw what we did, right? We took water, we won water. Our opponent had a strategy in mind, right, from the beginning of what they wanted to do. Again, there are a lot of people who play the strategy by building a back dock, right, fishing from there, and just letting their opponent have water. You know, that is sort of what happened, and it looks like, right, he wanted to go something like Tower Rush, probably into organ guns, but fortunately, right, we were able to stop it. And so one of the things to keep in mind here, right, if we don't have this outpost here, right, we don't stop it, right? And so this is one of the points that I was going to make earlier, is that as somebody who's been landed a bunch of times on the highlands, right, this is a decision that I like to make, and especially if I'm playing with a civ like Byzantines that is free town watch, free town patrol, because you can just see so much. Information is key, and this is really just another form of scouting and having that awareness. And in this case, it probably saved us the game. We are later getting up to Castle Age. You can see we have very little idle eco time, right? Just about 25 seconds. So it's not that we're playing an unclean build or anything like that, but we invested into water, right? We lost some fishing ships, which caused our food to drop just a little bit. So it's one of those things where we could be in a really, really nasty situation here. But my advice would be, don't be afraid to make outpost in order to keep vision. If you're not going to wall up, I like vision anyways, so that's you know, I still think outposts are useful. Yeah, you might not be able to put down 2 town centers additionally when you hit the next age, but in my experience, it's actually worth it, right? And instead playing, if you play a 2 town center, we have an excess of gold build up here. I think that the information is usually worth it to go ahead and get that. Theoretically to find out with your scout, but you have 1 scout trying to patrol an entire island. That's tough. That's really tough. So our scout was down here, and so because our scout was patrolling down here, I wanted to get outpost here so we at least covered this area, and that's exactly what we did. And hey, in this game, it turned out that it was gonna pay off for us. So the last thing I just wanted to say about this build, right, is that typically what happens is that once you finish the berries off, you want to take villagers and get to wood, right? And the idea is that you're probably going to be fighting for water. You may need more docks. You are probably going to be wanting to put up some town centers so you don't fall behind economically. So that's kind of the basic idea here. And really from that point, right, this point in the game, you'd be trying to react to what your opponent's doing. If they're going for a landing, it depends on the military units that they have. At some point, you do probably want to think about getting a barracks, if for no other reason than to be able to make other military production buildings that you might need. We didn't have it in this game, and it turned out for us. So with that being said, hey, I think that the idle time really speaks for itself here in terms of seeing the build in action with not that many imperfections, and I showed you right away that you can fight for water. So it's not that complicated of a build, but if you have no idea what you're doing and you're trying to play it completely standard the way you would like Arabia, you're definitely going to fall behind. And on islands, you don't want to fall behind, because if we were playing standard Arabia style builds, our opponent did what we did, we'd fall behind on water really fast, and now he'd be able to get as many fish as he wants and do that sort of thing. And so you want to watch out for that. So with that being said, right, this was a pretty short video, pretty short game, but shows you the build order. So I hope you enjoyed that. And with that being said, right, I'm Jimmy James, and I'll see you out there on the ladder. Peace.